Hi, I'm Brad Schuster, and I'm with the Technical and Repair Department here at Samez Kremlin.
Alright guys, now I know you've got questions about our Flomax pumps, specifically the fluid section. I read the emails, I get the phone calls, so let's go through this video on servicing our Flomax fluid sections together. This pump is a 20F100 pump. By the end of this, you'll be confident in servicing any Flomax that comes your way. We're going to go through tearing down, troubleshooting, and reassembling. We're going to go through the tools needed, what comes in the service kit, so let's get after it. We're going to need a 4, 5, and 6 millimeter Allen wrench, a couple open face wrenches, 17 mil socket, and a couple adjustable wrenches. We're going to get started by removing the fluid tube. You're going to want to loosen the nut that's connected to the exhaust valve on the bottom. And then you're going to want to take and loosen the 4 screws with your 5 millimeter Allen wrench on the back side of the pump here. Now once you remove the fluid tube, you're going to want to check the seal that connects to the exhaust valve and just make sure there's no deformities, any cuts that'll cause problems. That's your tightening ring, and that's the seal. Next, we're going to grab an adjustable wrench and put it on the flats of the exhaust valve, as well as the flats on the cylinder to break that exhaust valve free. Once broke free, it spins pretty easily. You're going to want to check the ball and seat. Make sure there's no hard material on the ball or seat. It could cause issues with priming. Just overall function of the pump will be hindered if there's any material or flaws in that ball and seat and seal. Next, we're going to remove the cylinder. You just need a big old adjustable wrench. Throw it on the flats there and give it a rip. Once it's broke free, it spins freely out of there by hand. And again, you're going to want to check that Teflon O-ring seal and make sure there's no nicks, cuts, any deformities that'll break that seal. And from there, we move on to the stuffing box. What you're going to want to do here is use 2 wrenches so you stabilize that piston. You don't want the piston to spin because it could twist the bellows. Once you get that off, you're going to check that GT seal here for the same thing. Any cuts, deformities, the ball, you want to make sure there's no paint. Same with the seat. Next, we're moving on to the discharge flange. You're going to want to use your 6 mil Allen wrench to remove these 4 screws. Once removed, you just pull back on the flange, it'll pull off. We're going to set it to the side. There's a couple things you're going to want to check with this manifold filter, but this isn't a filter video. This is a Flomax video. Look for that one coming out of the Learning Lab soon. Now, there's a few things you're going to want to check on this GT seal. Same as before. Make sure there's no deformities, no cuts, dents, nicks, it's not packed with material. You'll know if there's something wrong with it once you take a second and look at it. From there, you're going to take your 17 millimeter ratchet and socket, and we're going to loosen the 4 nuts that are connected to the 4 tie rods. All you're going to do is give a nice hefty pull on the upper flange. Oftentimes the cylinder comes right with it. You're going to want to check in here. Make sure that inner O-ring Teflon seal is not damaged, well greased. And then next we're going to want to go ahead and remove the 4 tie rods to give you better access to the intermediate and upper piston. Next, we're going to remove the intermediate piston. To do that, you're going to need a 7/16 open end wrench and a 16 mil open end wrench. You're going to want to stabilize the air motor piston above the intermediate piston so that you don't twist and crack the bellows. There's a couple things you're going to want to look for on this piston. Make sure you don't see any scoring, any scratches, any finish wore off. Again, you'll be able to notice it by giving it a good once over. But that will lead to replacement if there's any damage. Okay, on to the scary part, removing the bellows. It's really not that scary. If you've made it this far without damaging the bellows, I'd say we're in the clear. We're going to start by taking your 5mm Allen wrench and removing the 3 screws that hold the bellows flange to the air motor. Okay, now that your bellows flange is free, you can now freely spin the bellows without worrying about cracking or breaking it. To remove it, we're going to need our 7/16 wrench, and we're also going to want an adjustable wrench on the flats of the bellows skirt, which is the metal piece at the end of the bellows there. You're going to give it a nice tug, break it free, and you'll notice that you can now spin that entire assembly without worrying about damaging the bellows. Okay, next we're going to actually remove the bellows from the flange itself. You're going to loosen these 4 screws to start, and then you're going to use 2 of them to re-thread into those empty holes that will push the flange assembly apart, therefore releasing the bellows. Now you're going to give it a nice big push. Don't worry about breaking it. You will not break it, but you got to get it out of there. So you got to give it a nice push. Voila, it comes right through. To remove the skirt, you just put each flat into a vise and give it a quick pop. It'll come right out. I am too weak to do it by hand in this scene here. So use a vise, give you no issues. Last step here, just remove your intermediate piston. Again, you're just going to do the same thing, check for deformities, make sure everything's okay. And that's that. We've got the fluid section apart. Next, we're going to go over what's in the service kit. We've got a replacement stuffing box assembly with GT seals, the upper and lower, replacement ball for the stuffing box, replacement exhaust valve fully assembled with new ball, clip, new seal, and also a package of seals to replace any that you have found to be damaged along the way. So next, we're going to put this thing back together. Try and think of what we just did, but in reverse. And we're going to use Loctite 577 on all connecting threads, so this thing doesn't come apart while in use. Not too much, little dab will do ya. Sometimes you get to the end of the Loctite, it becomes a struggle. Thread that on. Again, this is where we're going to need 2 wrenches for everything. You're going to stabilize as you go. You want to hold the air motor piston stable while you tighten the intermediate piston. Now we're going to put the bellows back through the flange. Just reverse of what we did before. You're going to put it through, give it a nice tug to lock it in there. We're going to take and secure it with the same 4 screws you removed earlier. You're going to want to go crisscross, just like you're tightening the lugs on a wheel for a car, just to make sure you get even pressure, and it does take a while, so just be patient. Once nice and tight, just slide it right over. You want to mind where those holes are going to be lined up so that you can connect your fluid tube. Now that you got it threaded on, just take your 2 wrenches from before, make it nice and snug. Now this is where you want to make sure you align those holes correctly so you can reconnect your fluid tube. You're just going to attach this with the same 3 screws you removed earlier. You want to use your 5mm Allen wrench. Now that we've got the bellows reinstalled, we are on the home stretch. Again, make sure you add some Loctite to the threads before connecting. That was a little excessive, but we will clean it up. Again, make sure they're tight. Go ahead, put your remaining 2 tie rods back. Make sure those are all tight. Next, we're going to install our cylinder. You're going to want to grease the edges to make sure those O-rings inside the bellows flange stay nice and lubricated. We use a Teflon based grease. You just want to be careful doing this so you don't cut any of those O-rings. Take your time. Line the cylinder up. There you go. From another angle, we have our upper flange being reinstalled. Once you get it pushed in, exposing the threads of the tie rod, you use your 4 nuts and washers from earlier. Tighten with your 17mm socket. After replacing your new GT seal, you're going to want to reinstall the outlet flange. You want to heavily grease down in there around the seal so that you can slide it over that piston easily and not damage anything. Give it a good push. Make sure she's nice and straight. Tighten those 4 screws with your 6mm Allen wrench from earlier. Again, I go crisscross just to make sure we're getting even pressure. Don't want to pinch any seals or anything. Get the grease out of there. Next, we are installing our new stuffing box in GT seal. Those come in our service kit. Just want to make sure there's no damage to the seal, that your ball is clean. I'm going to go ahead and pop the ball in there. Little Loctite on the threads. Again, here you're going to want to use 2 wrenches, your 16mm and an adjustable, just so you don't twist those pistons and end up twisting and damaging the bellows. Clean up any residual Loctite. You're almost there, guys. heavy grease around the GT seal. The material piston, again, double check your O-rings or replace them from the service kit. You want to be careful putting this on and pushing that seal in that you don't nick it on any of the threads inside. So you want to make sure she's nice and straight when you shove it on there. Get your Big Daddy wrench. Get it nice and tight onto our brand new exhaust valve. You want to make sure that O-ring seal's nice and greased up. Again, double check your ball and seat. Nice and shiny, no material, nothing sticking. Final step, reinstalling our fluid tube. You're going to start at the bottom, give a couple turns with that nut to get it started, and then you want to go and line up your 2 portholes in the 4 screws. Once you get the 4 screws tightened, come back and give the nut on the exhaust valve a good tightening. This is where I'm going to pass it over to Wayne Snowden across the pond. He's got a great video on how to get one of these pumps set up, primed, and ready to use. Hope you enjoyed this video, guys.